But now, how on earth do you actually get to be a guest on someone's show when you don't really know any other podcasters, or when the people that you do know have audiences that don't have a huge overlap with you, so you can't contact them because it wouldn't make any sense for you to do that? So my answer for this is very simple. You have to do a lot of legwork, or in this case, finger work, and you do some good old.
You're listening to Podcasting for Experts, with honest conversations about using podcasting as a tool to grow your reach, increase your audience, make a positive impact on the world, and most importantly, to get paid for your efforts. I'm your host, Jess, and we are Pristine Podcasts. Let's talk podcasting.
Hey, and welcome back to Podcasting for Experts. I'm Jess, co-founder here at Pristine Podcasts, and this is season 3, episode 12. And today we're going to be talking about cold emails and guest pitches and collaboration requests that actually work. So let's dive in. So if you've been listening to me for any length of time, you already know that I think being a guest on other relevant podcasts, and the keyword here being relevant, is the thing that's actually going to help you to expand your reach. And it's going to work way better than you having a guest on your show. And here's why. So when you invite a guest to come on your show, a large part of the interview is going to be taken up by you getting to know the guest, by you asking them questions about their journey, and by you having something that is relevant to your specific audience that you want that guest to bring to the interview. So let's say you're talking to a life coach and you help people to build businesses, then most likely you're going to extract value from the life coach that helps busy business owners to, live their life in more balance or something like that. And the point of you having that guest on your podcast is for you and your audience to get value from that guest's knowledge. Now, if you think that that's going to attract a lot of new listeners to your podcasts when the guest shares the episode with their audience, it most likely actually won't. First off, the majority of guests that come to your show don't end up really promoting the interview that they did with you to their audience, most likely because they haven't really, and they know that they haven't really said anything on your interview that they haven't already in multiple different places shared with their audience. So there isn't actually that much of value to get. And even if they do share the interview with their audience, you will find that very few listeners actually come to check you out because they're already in your guest's ecosystem. They get their emails, they follow their YouTube channel, they listen to their podcast, and they've already consumed everything to do with their story and their kind of general tips and takeaways, and they're way deeper into that guest's ecosystem, so that a superficial general interview on someone else's podcast wouldn't really interest them all that much. So it doesn't usually get you very many results to have guests to be interviewed on your podcast. However, it does give you results for you to be interviewed on somebody else's podcast that has a very relevant audience, because these people don't know you yet. And if you're giving a lot of value, then the target group that is part of the other person's audience, that target group that is interested, which will only ever be a percentage of their total listeners, but they might come and check you out. So it is actually way more efficient for you to be a guest on somebody else's podcast than for you to invite people onto your podcast. But now, how on earth do you actually get to be a guest on someone's show when you don't really know any other podcasters, or when the people that you do know have audiences that don't have a huge overlap with you, so you can't contact them because it wouldn't make any sense for you to do that? So my answer for this is very simple. You have to do a lot of legwork, or in this case, finger work, and you do some good old cold outreach. So the first place that you can always start is in your personal network. So you can ask for a few introductions that are going to help you to connect with other podcasters, but you don't really have very much control over the success rate of this because you're sort of dependent on the quality of your network and whether or not they are actually going to put you in touch with anyone. So that is why I'm arguing that cold pitches to the perfect show can actually be extremely successful, and it's absolutely within your control to achieve that. It just takes a decent amount of effort. So I want to talk a little bit about cold pitches first before you tune out, because your brain is saying, oh my God, I hate this. I could never send cold pitches. People hate those and I'm not doing anything that somebody might not like. Like, I've heard all of that before. I have to some extent thought that myself before. But the thing that I had to learn to understand is that people don't necessarily hate cold pitches. People hate really bad cold pitches. So today I will tell you why you can send cold pitches and have people actually love them. So before we get into the cold pitch, I want to talk a little bit about selecting the right show to actually be a guest on. So you can use various tools to identify podcasts that may have a similar audience to your target audience. So I would go right around social media. I would search all the Facebook groups that you're in for the word podcast, and I would go and check people out in that way. So because these people are already kind of within your extended network, it would be easier to find a reason to link up with these people and check out their podcast, because you can use the whole, hey, I saw you posting in this group. We're both members there. I've seen you around, blah, blah, blah. So you have a little bit of a level of connection. The other thing that you can do is you can use a podcast listening platform called Good Pods, because they have a very good recommendation section. So they have like a thing of, hey, you like this show? Here's 5 other shows that are similar to that one. And they even recommend shows that aren't necessarily huge shows, but they're actually just very relevant to what you've just been listening to. So that is super, super, super useful. And then you can use a platform called Rephonic that is quite pricey if you were to do a lot of searches, but you can basically use that platform to go and find podcasts in similar niches to the ones that you're looking for. Then you can go through using podcast promo swap databases, for example, to find shows that are actually actively looking to connect. We are working on our own database right now. So if you are looking for people to come onto your show, or you're looking for other opportunities, you can go to pristinepodcast.com/promotions. And there you can fill out a little Google form to add your show into our promo database. So if you want to connect with others, and even if it's just for ad swaps, not necessarily for guest interviews, then you can totally use our database to enter your podcast there. So you can use databases like that. And then you can use platforms like matchmaker.fm, for example, to find people that are actively looking for guests for their podcast. So there's a whole host of different ways that you can find shows that you might be able to reach out to. So then once you have the list of the shows made, I would recommend that you divide them up into 3 lists. The first list is going to be the easy wins. So they are podcasters that do a lot of interviews. They are podcasters that have maybe a smaller audience than you do, and you can just tell that they would basically accept anyone to come on their show. And if they have a good audience overlap with the kind of people that you're looking for, they are in the easy win category. So I would find all the easy wins first. Then the second category is like the perfect match, realistically. So they are the people that are maybe at a similar stage in their podcasting and business journey that you are. They have the perfect audience, but they're not a competitor with you, that they don't offer any competitive services to yours. And you're going to put those people in the perfect match category. And then you can have your dream shows. That's the third category. So they're shows of people that have been doing this way longer than you have, and you would feel a little bit awkward about pitching them for you to be a guest on their podcast, because it's where the old, little voice in your head comes in and basically says, hey, who do you think that you should be a guest on this podcast? Like, you don't know enough, you're not good enough. So they tend to go into the dream shows category. So once you have your shows selected and you've divided them up into 3 lists, then you can go and work on your pitch. So I would personally start with the shows that you've put in the easy win category, because when you first do cold pitches, they do feel a little bit awkward, and your first ones are potentially not going to be as good as they could be. And I wouldn't want to burn the perfect matches with a bad cold email. So the first thing that I always do is to make sure that the show that I'm going to pitch has guests on regularly. This is a no-brainer, but I'm just going to say it again. If they don't ever have guests, then it's likely that it's just part of the thing that they've chosen for their podcast not to have guests on their show. The second thing that I always check is the purpose of their show. So what are they intending to provide for their listeners? What is their value proposition for their podcast? I check their podcast website. I get a general feel for the point of the show. I check the past episodes that they had guest on for. I check if they've recently already had somebody that has talked about the exact same things that I'd want to talk about, because then I will put them on a little bit of a wait list and I'll reach out to them in 3 months because enough time has passed for them to have another similar person on their show. So I kind of check all of those things. And then I make sure that I really have something valuable to offer to their audience, because you have to remember, when you are a guest on someone else's podcast, it is about you when the host is talking to you, but it's all about the value that you can deliver to their audience. So whenever you're cold pitching, you want to think, what can I do for that person? How can I make that person look better? How can I make that person feel good about themselves? How can I add value to what they do to support their mission? How can I help them to achieve their goals? And whenever you cold pitch from that perspective, you have way, way, way more success. Okay. So I always make sure that I have a very clear value proposition when I reach out. Hey, I'm reaching out to be a guest on your podcast because. So that is something that is super important to me. Then I tend to listen to a few episodes so that I start to get a feel for the host, for the show, for the types of things that people share and how they do it and what the episode structure is, so that I can really formulate a very, very personalized pitch. And then once I have a really good picture, then I will start reaching out to the host. So I basically write an email where I cover pretty much the same things. It just depends on the angle that I'm going to take with that. So the first thing that I always do is that I share something positive that I've found in their show or some nugget of advice that I've taken away. And I thank them for offering so much value to their audience. And I make sure that it's something that is very specific. So it shows that I have really listened to your actual episodes. You know, I will say, hey, I was listening to your interview with so-and-so, and I love that part where you talked about this. I thought that was a really good question that you asked there, or something like that, you know? So I don't ever give feedback or compliments that are not specific, because they immediately feel fake. And the last thing that I want is for the person to think that I'm fake. Then I tend to state upfront that this is a cold pitch to be a guest on the show. And I'm doing it because I really think that I have some value to offer to their audience. Then I kind of go into explaining which part of my work or my story is particularly relevant to their audience and what I would like to share. This is a bonus point, but what you can do is that you can actually record a video or an audio snippet of you explaining your value proposition. So you could write in the email, hey, I think I have something really amazing to share for your audience that would really help them to achieve X goal, or that would help you to achieve your mission with this. I want to keep this email short, so I recorded you a quick audio on what I would like to talk about, and then just put the link. Then I also explain how I would go and promote their show after we've done the interview. Or I would even suggest, including a promo in my podcast to promote their show. So I'm trying to give as much benefit and as much value as possible. If they also have a community or they're very active on social media, then I would try and see if I can offer some more value to them, maybe in form of a Q&A or something in their Facebook group after the episode, in case people have questions or anything like that. So I basically think, okay, what else can I do that would make them, look really, really, really good? I then mentioned that I, can provide my headshots and bio, etc. promptly if this sounds like something that they're interested in. And I tell them that, I would love to have a chat about this. Not everyone, for example, if I have a guest on my podcast, I don't pre-chat. I already know those people, and I don't really want to spend a lot of time booking multiple calls with people because I don't really think it's necessary to do that. However, some people do want to talk to their guests and they want to know what they're like. Some people will just get you to fill out a form. So I just kind of, my call to action is that I want them to get in touch with me so that we can book a time to maybe do an interview. And then I just sign them off, and I always tell them that I look forward to talking to them soon. And that's really it. When it comes to cold email and cold outreach, we always get a little bit scared about doing that because it's like, oh, what if they have like a negative response, blah, blah, blah. To be honest, normally the worst thing that will happen is that somebody says, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. I would love to have you as a guest, but we've already planned the next 50 episodes, but I might reach out to you in future. Or they will just say, hey, no thanks, I don't think this is a good fit for my audience right now. Or like we've recently covered this on the show. So just whenever you send a cold email, expect the person to say no. For most cold outreach, actually people will say nothing. They will just ignore you. And when it comes to guest pitches, I have to say I haven't gotten a single rude reply yet where someone says, how do you dare email me about being a guest on my show when you send an email like that? You know, like you've really done your research. You made sure that you have something valuable to offer and you're just putting it out there. So I just want to say that I don't really think you're very likely to get a very, very negative response. No one's going to exclude you. And the good thing is, within a matter of a couple of days, people will have already forgotten that you exist. So there really isn't anything that you have to lose by sending a cold email, you know? So my summary overall is that I think nobody really hates cold pitches. What people hate is annoying cold pitches. So just banging out an email saying, hey, I want to be a guest on your show. Here's my blah, blah, blah. You know, that doesn't work. We've seen this time and time again with our clients. Whenever we're reaching out and we've done our research and we're saying, hey, our client would be a perfect fit for your show because they've actually recorded you a voice message. Here it is. You are unlikely to get like a super negative response, but you really do have to do your homework. You do have to do your research and it takes time. Okay. And if you're not willing to invest that time, then you're going to end up sending a bad cold pitch and then it's not going to work. Okay. So nobody hates cold pitches. People hate annoying cold pitches. That is your takeaway for today's episode. And with that, we're already done talking about this. As always, I hope you have an amazing day and I will see you for the next one.
That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you. If you are looking for a community where you can brainstorm with like-minded podcasters and business owners, then don't forget to check out our Facebook group. You can find it at pristinepodcast.com/group. The link is also in the show notes.